Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Greater Boca Raton Beach and Park District meeting, February 7th, 2022. Call the meeting to order. So we'll do the roll call first. Ernst? Commissioner Engel? Commissioner Rollins?
Here.
Commissioner Vogelsong? Here. Commissioner White? Here. Changes to the agenda.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to remove number 2, the review of the maintenance facility at Hornley Park, off the agenda, and we will discuss that at the next meeting. City staff wasn't available tonight to present that.
I'll take that off. And any public comments from here?
Good evening. Am I on?
No, make sure you push the button. Yeah.
Push the button.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Regina Eklund, 5201 Northwest 2nd Avenue, appearing on behalf of myself and Boca Chica Condo 7. First of all, I would like to thank everyone in the Beach and Park District that was involved in the improvements made at 2nd Avenue and Clintmore, Jeffrey. Those corners are really starting to look very nice, as is the park itself in its entirety. So we do appreciate that you've put extra funds into maintaining that property. And on that note, I would like to address not only the upcoming visioning meeting on Wednesday, which I'm hoping that lots of people from Boca Chica will be attending, as well as other people from the city. It's very important. I was able to get a copy of the survey that was sent out by Miller Legg. I have yet to talk to anyone at Boca Chica who has received this survey, or anyone else that I know in the city. I understand that only 5,000 were sent out. I understand also that mailing costs are significant, so these surveys certainly can't go to everyone in the city. I also realize that asking that these surveys be sent to every owner in the Boca Chica community sounds like it is slanting what you might receive in the way of reply for these surveys. But I do think it is important that every Boca Chica owner have a say in what is going to be in their backyards. And it is truly in our backyards. So that includes Boca Chica residents, as well as Chica Woods and Sandavance. All of that said, in looking at the survey, there are things on that survey that I think are either incorrect or possibly will slant your view of the results. I'm not sure why Yamato Scrub Natural Area was chosen as one of the parks to include. I understand it's just a nature area, and you may want to see how many people actually would take advantage of that, but it seems a little odd. But what really is disturbing, under number 6, you have, after choosing your favorite or your most used 3 parks of the 8 listed above, one of the options is a driving range. None of those parks have a driving range. So the survey is going to come back. You're going to look at it and say, well, no one chose a driving range for use of any of those parks. There is no driving range. So you probably should have taken that into consideration. Also on the next page, you list a golf training facility. Those of us that have been part of this for years now realize that a golf training facility probably does encompass a driving range and hopefully putting greens, but it doesn't specify that. And I think it should. Making an assumption on the part of people who are taking the survey or people who are interpreting this survey, I think can be very misleading. Also, many of us wanted an executive golf course. I see that we do have the option of writing that in. You do list a senior junior golf course, but I think that falls short of what we are hoping to get. And then the last part under number 11 are the financial choices. The first one is a bond referendum. Now, correct me if I am wrong, but I did not think that the Beach and Park District could issue a bond referendum. I may be wrong, so I'll let you address that later. A dedicated foundation, I'm not sure exactly what that would encompass. I think people will have questions about that. And then a new dedicated sales tax and increased property tax. I think you're going to find most people with given the choice are going to say, well, no, I don't want my taxes increased. But I think you have to realize that maybe that's not a question that should be posed. And if that is the way to finance this park, so be it. So I don't think you're going to find many people in favor of it just because people don't like their taxes raised. So that doesn't leave you many choices on funding. So I hope that you're objective in your expectations on what you will receive in responses there. I don't know what a public-private partnership would entail, and I think that can be misleading for people who are taking the survey. I don't want to go into anything more on the Ocean Breeze property because we'll have our opportunity to speak to that hopefully on Wednesday. But I do ask that this survey be sent out to Boca Chica owners. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else?
Phyllis Elias, 6200 Northwest Second Ave. I did not get a survey, and I just found out about the survey last Wednesday, and I would really like a copy of it. I don't know how I can maintain it. I don't know why you didn't email out the surveys to people you have emails to. I get all the other emails, so it'd been just as easy and less expensive to do that. Thank you.
No, anybody else? Anybody at home? No. We'll close the public request section and we'll do approval of the minutes of the previous board meeting held on January 18th, 2022.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Engel? Commissioner Rollins? Commissioner Wilkerson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray?
Okay, moving on to regular business. The first is the Gumbo Limbo Tower discussion.
Commissioners, as you all know by now, the city received one bid for the Gumbo Limbo Tower project, which we were anxiously awaiting to hear about. We had in our budget 1.2 million, which included a generous donation from the Friends of Gumbo Limbo for half of that. The one bid that they received came back at 2.6 million. We met with city staff and also John Holloway from the Friends of Gumbo Limbo. I see Jim Miller is here tonight. John couldn't make it. He's stuck in traffic. He was trying to get here, but we had a conversation and we all agreed that probably the best thing to do at this point is to wait a few months and see if things change as far as the pricing of certain materials plateaus and revisit rebidding the project and hopefully solicit more bidders and more competition for the project. And also tonight we're discussing getting a grant writer, and I think that could be a good project for the grant writer to start on to secure more funds. But at this point tonight, I'm just looking for a consensus from this board if we're in agreement with the city staff and the Friends to reject this bid, table it for a few months and see if things change.
Anybody have any comments on this?
I'm in agreement. Let's wait. Let's see what happens. I don't think it can hurt us. Yeah, I move that we table the bid consideration for Gumbo Limbo Tower for a period of 180 days.
We combine to a certain time frame because the city staff will be monitoring the pricing. So it's
Okay.
just revisit it. The city staff, we're going to keep checking in on it and revisit it when the pricing, if it changes or plateaus. I don't want to confine us to a box of time.
Okay, so let's change that to a period to be determined.
Jen?
Just real briefly, I guess. Well, I'm disappointed about the amount. I suspect that it has to do with the design and the structure. There is, a lumber out there from when it was originally done. I hope that in this whole time that to take the time out, that we look for a way to get it done. And getting it done means if it's value engineering things, rethinking some of the things, because the ramp system that has been designed is significant. I just kind of call into question, is that really the right way to do it? But I think the city, if they need additional assistance with doing it, I think we should be more than willing to help step up whatever we need to do to make this happen. But I'd like to get it done. That's my 2 cents.
We seen the specs on this from the city?
We sent out some specs. This was back in September, August, September, around when we were budgeting, and the city staff has never presented this to us. I'm sorry, we're talking about the tower. We've only seen, you guys saw the design and the video tour of it, and some specs were attached to that, but that was what we've seen on it.
Like to see what the specs are that they've been sending out
I-
to.
I can request the bid specs and documents.
I
and
would
the actual
appreciate
bid.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Get a second on it? We did, right, Bob? Okay. And take a roll call on this one.
Commissioner Engel. Commissioner Vogelsang.
The next thing on the agenda is the San Remo maintenance lease termination.
Commissioners, in your agenda packets on page, looks like 20, is the San Remo lease termination. So when the district purchased this property in conjunction with the city on the west side, there is an entrance to San Remo. It's the corner of Yamato Road on 2nd and Yamato. We inherited a lease that was written ages ago that would require us to continue to maintain that property. We learned through legal counsel that we cannot put any improvements on private property with public funds. So we were only able to just maintain it basically to code, which we have done. And we put in, we had some code complaints come through. We put in the sod, we've upgraded it. So everything is meeting code requirements at this point. We asked the San Remo HOA to give us the property, transfer it to us so that we could add improvements to it and match both sides should we down the road determine that a grant entrance to the park or something like that. San Remo has opted instead to just let us out of the lease, which will cut some of our maintenance costs, not significant, but we will no longer be required to maintain that corner. It will be on the San Remo HOA to maintain it. And moving forward, we would just do any improvements we do would be on the east side of that entryway. And San Remo would own it. I think we could leave the door open if we develop the park down the road and they want to reconsider transferring that to us so that we can make those improvements, we could do that. But right now we're looking tonight just to approve this lease termination. And because this all involves the city, everything we do on the west side, Jacob did reach out to the city's city attorney's office, and I'll let him chime in on their response to this.
Thank you, Brianne. Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Brianne summed this up very nicely, and she's correct insofar as the district did acquire this property as part of the acquisition of the Ocean Breeze Golf Course that occurred back in March of 2018. You may recall in 2019, in April of that time, our office was asked to look into the district's obligations as it relates to that property, and we had done title work at the time and put together a legal analysis detailing our obligations. And as Brianne indicated, we have inherited the lease that encumbers that particular corner and do have an ongoing obligation to maintain the property. But as it is private property, we're highly limited in the ability to use public funds to improve that private property, though we do have the obligation to maintain it. Since the property was acquired as part of the Ocean Breeze transaction, in an abundance of caution, we did reach out to the city attorney's office just to let them know as a matter of courtesy, this item was being considered by the district and to see if they had any other interest in that property. We've not heard back from the city attorney's office. We had that communication about a week ago. We'd recommend, to the extent the board wanted to move forward with the action presented this evening, you certainly have every right and opportunity to do that. In the event that the city attorney comes back and chimes in that the city does have a role here, we could certainly advise the commission to that effect. But again, having looked at the title work and considered the lease and our interest in it, we don't see any real role for the city in the discussion. But again, as a courtesy and in an abundance of caution, we did make that contact and have not heard back on that point.
Move to terminate the lease with San Remo.
Okay, any discussion, further discussion?
In addition to all that, quite frankly, I'm just disappointed in the Boca Chica community because as I recall, when we first even started with the golf course proposal, there was a grand design entrance and it was met with a resounding no. And, to me, it's disappointing that given the investment that the district and taxpayers are putting into it, that there's little cooperation to help beautify the entrance. So yes, it's been restored to its original look. They're consistent. The district has spent money to resod, to replant materials and do things, but it's disappointing, honestly, that we couldn't do something nicer or have it on the record to do something better down the road with it when we collectively get this thing together. So you might as well terminate the lease and they can maintain it.
Bob, Steve, anything? No? Okay.
Commissioner Ernst? Commissioner Engel? Commissioner Rollins? Commissioner Vogelsang?
Yes.
And Commissioner Ray?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, and the final thing on the agenda is the grant writer RFP.
Commissioners, at our last meeting, we discussed going out for an RFP to hire a grant writer or writers to search for alternative funding for some of our projects. I did make one change to the proposal that's in your folders, or that you all received as part of this meeting agenda packet. So in your folders, there is a page that says replaces page 29 in your agenda packets. And I made two changes underneath the scope, deleted one line that was left in there and shouldn't have been left in there. It was just, I didn't get that deleted ahead of time. And then I added a line for grant evaluation. Another part of the scope would be to evaluate grants, basically to determine if whatever changes we had to make to the project to meet the requirements of the grant would be worth it, and what those impacts would be to whoever the end users are, to make sure it's worth our time and effort to go through the grant writing process. So it's just one more step added to the scope that we would expect from a future grant writer. So I'm just looking for tonight, if everybody's in favor of moving forward, we can get this advertised and start the process. And I also, Jacob can weigh in on part of the qualifications. We just added a line about contingency funds, which we cannot accept. So we did put that explicitly in this proposal.
Make a motion to approve the grant writing with the amended change.
Commissioner Ernst? Commissioner Engel? Commissioner Rollins? Commissioner Vogelsang? Commissioner Ray?
Yes.
Motion passes.
The approval of payroll and invoices.
Make a motion for payroll and invoices in the amount of $102,971.96.
Second.
Commissioner Engel? Commissioner Rollins?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray?
To make a comment. As a senior member of this board, I'd appreciate if we could raise the font on this treasurer's report in the future so I could read it.
We'll,
Thank you.
we'll,
There you go. Right. Thank
reports and discussion items. Brian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, as you all know, Ocean Strand went before City Council and was unanimously approved to move forward. We have a few administrative things to satisfy to get the permits issued, just validating that we can afford the project and whatnot. Some of the things that came up during that presentation from City Council, some things that they wanted to see out there were dog waste receptacles, which we all discussed at length during the process of this, but because there's a city ordinance, we decided not to do that. I'll talk to Michael more about it. I'm not sure from a maintenance standpoint if they're supportive, and I also don't know what that does to the city ordinance, but we will look at that. Another thing that came up was recycling stations, which I think everybody supports. I went out to Hillsborough Rio just to see what they had done out there for recycling, because I thought we could kind of copy since it's a brand new park that they opened. They actually don't have recycling out at their new park in the city. So I reached out to Michael. We talked a bit. The city has contract with 4 Oceans to do recycling at the beach, but there is no recycling at our parks. So we're going to meet again and discuss. There's issues with contamination and things like that. So we're going to discuss how we could possibly get recycling incorporated into all of our parks. I know that's something that everybody has been interested in and has mentioned. So we will continue to look at that, and hopefully 4 Oceans can provide services at Ocean Strand, and we'll add some containers out there for that go along with what they use at the beach as well. Patch Reef tennis and pickleball, those renovations, they're going to have a kickoff meeting tomorrow. So that is getting off to a start. Swim and racket center renovations, we're on track to bid the project in April and hopefully have work starting June or July, depending on permits, because some of that will require some permitting through the city for the electrical with the lighting. The Patch Reef infill remediation project, 2 fields are going to be completed in March, and then the final field will be completed in May. And then this segues into the Boca Chica update, and I will talk about some of the comments that were made about the survey. Our visioning workshop for everybody, I think it was mentioned several times, so you guys know about it, February 9th, 6 p.m. We sent this out in an email blast. We did a press release today, so that has gotten some good traction too. Surveys did go out, and so I just want to clarify for the public, this was not a general survey, it's a statistically valid survey, which means they only sample portions of all the city and the district residents. And we've gotten calls from people that have gotten the survey. I think you've gotten a call from somebody that got the survey. So they are out there. The thing with the statistically valid survey is that it's considered scientific data, and it'll be incorporated with weight into whatever this board decides to do. It's not the end all. Just, February 9th, the people that show up and come out and talk about what they want, I think the board is going to listen to all those comments. And I think everybody from Boca Chica also participated in the RFI. So our architect engineering firm has all of those responses, and they've talked about them, and all these things carry weight. And the statistically valid survey, the board can look at it and decide what weight they want to put on it. But I think, and we will send you the survey if you want to see a copy of it. What every question has is always an other line, whether it's the parks that you visit, it's not just a one list, there's a line too. If you go to another park that we didn't include, you can add that park. But if you want to leave your email address with Joanne, we'll send you a copy of the survey. But in general, the scope of this project was just a statistically valid survey. So it's a sampling of residents. It's proven effective in master planning processes. It's proven effective in a lot of different ways for a lot of municipalities. And what it does is it gets a general idea from, because this, while it is in your backyard, it's everybody in Boca's Park. And so we want to make sure we have that feedback from everybody. So it's, what they did was they pulled random addresses from areas all over Boca. And those people will have a chance to respond. We don't have those addresses because we're not skewing it. We're not involved in it. It's a separate firm that's doing it. It's a subcontractor that Miller Lake hired, and we wouldn't want to be involved in where they selected those addresses from or anything like that, because it takes away from the scientific validity of it all. And so with that, if this board wants to do a separate survey for the Boca Chica residents, that's something, but we can't add it to the statistically valid survey because that then changes those results. So I just wanted to clarify what this was not a survey for all the residents, just a specific cross-section of the entire city and the district areas, because they'll also have access to this park. Yes.
On that thought, Boca Chica residents want to participate. there is the statistically valid survey that's been sent out.
Yes.
Is there not going to be something on our website that allows anyone who wants to participate?
We have a meeting Wednesday that we want everybody to come to. That's a big opportunity for anybody in the city to come out and talk about what they want. We've talked about adding an email address. We have it on social media. People are writing their comments on there too about things. Today, somebody wrote they want a senior center. So I think we've given the general public lots of opportunities to participate. We will continue to do that, but these visioning workshops, when we ask the public to come out and tell us what they want, and there's a virtual participation too. So if you don't want to come to a public meeting because of COVID or because of your car's not working, whatever, we've had that option too. We can create an email address. The only thing with that, like we saw with the RFI, is we can't validate where people live.
I get it. The RFI is a different thing, but I thought the process was anyone who wants, there's a lot of different ways to gather input. You cleared that up.
Yeah.
Can a resident who wants to fill out the survey still fill it out on our website or not?
We didn't, because it will skew the statistically, the
wouldn't
validity
include it
of
in
this.
that.
It would be
That's-
separate. If
okay.
we can make it separate and we can put up a form and people can fill it out and we can use those too, but then you're going to have to decide as a board what weight you want to put on each of these different things.
Okay, that's fine. I just thought that was what they were doing. I wasn't sure.
Right.
So it's fine. I mean, the base case is the survey that has gone out to the
When-
community.
Right. When we did the master plan, there was the survey for everybody, and then there was just the statistically valid survey. In our scope, it was just the statistically valid survey, because we have the general survey about what people like in recreation too, from what the city did.
Yeah.
But we can certainly add something else for the general public to fill out.
If we need to, we can after the fact, but I guess you could go back to Norleg. The experience from the survey from the city, as I recall, was you send out these random surveys.
Yes.
And then you can have, I think in that one, they had a separate one if you want to come in and fill it out. And people did. The answer was the same. So when you gather all these things, you kind of get the same answer. The history is you get the same answer.
Yes.
The one that's sent out to everyone at random is going to give you that. It's not going to give you a skewed answer. If you give it all to Boca Chica residents, you'll get a different answer. We know that. We've heard that. We already know, Harold has spoken, you've spoken, Regina, significantly about it. So we have a feel for that. This is the information gathering stage to come to some kind of conclusion to this whole process.
With the online surveys, the other issue is validating addresses and where people live, because it's important that we hear from residents. If you have, let's say, and I'm not trying to pick on disc golf people, but if you have a bunch of people that want to play disc golf in Boca, they may not live in Boca, but they could obviously fill out these surveys and say, put disc golf over there. So the statistically valid survey is going to give you the results of the general community, the residents in Boca. Our PR person is online right now telling me that we can put out an email and create something so that everybody can respond in general, that we have the Boca residents in that too. So we can create something like that and put that out this week.
Meeting last Wednesday, Miller Lake did say that there would be an open survey in a few weeks. So they're planning on it.
And we'll get you a copy of it, but this particular one is the statistical one that will be scientific and completely random. We're not involved in how the addresses were selected or anything like that. I wouldn't even ask to see the addresses for that very reason. Sorry, I'm not even done yet. Today, our chair and myself met with the new principal at Verde K through 8. Their principal that we worked with last year on the interlocal agreement for the Swim and Racket Center, he has moved on to the new, I guess it's official, Blue Lake Elementary School. And so Ms. Codling has taken over Verde K through 8. We met with her to talk about the interlocal agreement, which they did not use this year because they're just going through a lot of changes, obviously, and COVID and all the different things that are happening. So we talked about that, and we talked about the opportunity for their outdoor area behind where they do PE and where they have a playground. It's almost like a tiny park behind the school, and it has a separate access point. So we did discuss an opportunity to possibly work together if everybody was interested. Commissioner Wright can weigh in on that as well, but I think there's a good opportunity there for a soccer field. They don't have one, but there's an opportunity and space for that. They have a small playground. They have some other elements out there. I don't remember everything that was out there, but
or basketball court.
Yeah.
There's I wouldn't call it a baseball field, but it does have clay.
It's small.
And then there's a couple of playgrounds. There's a lake nearby, but it is fenced off. But there is space for either a soccer field or like a multi-use field that can be used for rugby, for football, for lacrosse, for soccer. So it's something that we did discuss, and basically, Brianne would like to go and talk to her contacts at the district if we give her the direction to do so, to try to, you know, see if it would be something that we wanted to go and discuss with them, type of thing, to get more information basically for us. So,
Madam Chair,
Um,
may I make a comment? Uh, Just a little history on the Verde Fields. For a long time, the district had a ILA with the school district for those fields. And at the time, times have changed, but at the time, there was very little use by the public of those facilities because it was out of the way and and probably one of the best kept secrets in town about the facility. So after a number of years watching and counting the activity there, it was agreed that we would discontinue that relationship. And so I mentioned that to you because typically where you have an isolated field, you don't get the activity on that you would ordinarily would. And have no problem in considering this activity, but I wouldn't want to put a great deal of money into it. And I would want to try to get the school board to help us with the cost on that rather than more than what they did with Don Estridge. We, got $25,000 from them annually for a facility that's costing us $500,000 a year. So just a little history, mentioned that to you going in, that having one field like that really may help if you wanted to send a particular group over there, but a group like Sabre, for instance, has more success in having more than one field at one location so that it can be managed by the division reps and the referees a little bit better. So just a little history.
I don't know if soccer would be the right fit, but I was thinking more of like rugby or, some of the smaller sports that are requesting more space. And I feel like the history is good, but I feel like, there's a lot more people living here and a lot more sports teams and a lot more kids participating in sports now. And I don't feel it's too out of the way. I think it's pretty centrally located, especially with the new school right down the street. So I just think it's worth looking into and discussing also with the city, maybe with them as well, what kind of sports, if we were to do something with them, what kind of sports that have been requesting more fields and things like that would get use over there in that location by whatever sports teams, even adult. Well, we had the request by the principal that the adult teams, not because it's a school, prefer, not have adult leagues over there. So, but this is just, it's basically researching and talking to the city and talking to the district, just trying to explore and see if it's an opportunity we would like to look into more.
I don't disagree with you at all. I would certainly support that. The district historically doesn't have a very good history of equitable arrangements when it comes to leasing or developing property. So I would just make that comment that it should be something that would be equitable for us and the school, and certainly having another rectangular field in our facility would be a good thing too, for open play, if nothing else.
Keen, I haven't been over there in ages, so my kids are,
Well, there's a large, very large parking lot, and then there is an entrance right to the back where you don't have to go through the school at all, just a gate. So there's access right there.
To me, go, I mean, I'd say keep on going, Bob. I appreciate the feedback. We can bake it all into the process. I did talk to our friend on rugby, and that person reminded me he would really like 2 fields because he cannot fit 100 people on the Don Estrid field by itself. And he did make a request a while back about woodlands as a possibility. And so Brianna, I just asked if you could follow up with the city staff of where are they with that request or not. So it's a growing sport. I just say sports, we want to support our volunteers.
Go ahead. Perfect.
Still have more to go. Not that much more though. Pipes and pumping project, just a brief update. We're told that the contractor expects to mobilize for that project in 1 to 2 months. That's as narrow as I can get that down to. So that was an update on that project. And then other than that, future agenda items, I have the maintenance facility at DeHornley Park. I believe Rec Services staff will be presenting it. If you guys have any questions that come up between now and then, I can get them to them so they can prepare for that ahead of time. And then we will have hopefully the YMCA agreement, which I want to thank Jacob for working on these last couple of weeks to put together. So we'll have that ready to go as well. And that's all for me.
You and legal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Brianne said, we're putting the final touches on the YMCA agreement. We'll have a draft from YMCA hopefully in the next couple of days and get that on the next agenda. And I don't have anything else to report this evening. So thank you very much.
Steve, you want to go first?
Just something, I don't think it's minor, but looking at the agreement we have for the DeHornley Maintenance Facility, we're locked into a percentage of the total cost of construction, which means that if it goes from 7 million to 10 million, which is very possible in this day and age, we'd be stuck with a $3 million bill because it's based on percentage. What I would like to see going forward is contracts like this with the city, construction contracts, what have you, that we cap a dollar amount to be determined based on each project. But if we're going to do percentages, it's going to leave us wide open and could cause us a lot of trouble down the road. Other than that, I have nothing else.
Okay, yeah, I think definitely when we talk about that at the next meeting, I think that's a good place to, bring up that comment, and then we can have discussion on it when we discuss the project at the next meeting. Sound good? Okay. Craig?
Thanks. One, I agree totally with that. We're not the big gorilla in the room. We have a limited budget. So if we're participating in these things, we have to participate with a hard dollar amount, whatever that may be. So that's helpful and well noted. Regarding this patch reef, I did get an email from Raul, our favorite pickleball player, and he offered to participate in the design work for whatever we do with pickleball, which I think he knows it. So yes, I think he should be a participant as well as Michael and the city or designation. So whatever that is. But as we embark upon that, I guess I would really like us to encourage the volunteers to be more long lasting and staying there. Similar to what Gumbo Limbo evolved into, having that volunteer base, some kind of nonprofit foundation running the gift shop or doing things, to me, get some more commitment, more engaged, and keeps them in a long-term nature. So I'd like to see that evolve in the tennis center and the pickleball center out there at Patch Reef, and actually every one of our parks in some way or form. So just keep it in mind. Maybe we have to think about that. This YMCA agreement might be a starting point. But I encourage us to do that. In that same spirit, I am curious to find out where we are or where the city is with the agreement with the Friends. A year ago, we talked about this pumps and piping project, and the pumps and piping project is came to us as kind of rush. It needs to be done. We need commitment that you're going to pay for it. And then when we asked the Friends, they said no. And then they ultimately came around and said yes. But it seems to me it's important for them to be the volunteers, to respect them and let them do their jobs, participate out there. But at the same token, the community is what drives this process and made it great. So that agreement was really intended to be, there's got to be some kind of agreement between parties, and I think that's a good idea. But if that's the case, I don't want to damage the volunteer relationship. So that's essential as a balance. And we're not involved with it. So we have a role because we're funding Gumbo Limbo. We should get a feel for it, a flavor for what's going on with it. And hopefully that agreement comes to a mutual agreement. Do you have anything to add to that, Priyan?
Just going to let you know that I did get an update today because you brought that up when we were talking this morning. Mr. Holloway has been meeting with city staff on that. They're right now just kind of working on their end of things and what their expectations are and what they can give towards everything. I think they're really working on delineating who is going to be responsible for what. And a lot of that has been blurred. So I think they're still working on it. I don't know when it will be done, but I know that there seems to be some expediency on the side of the city to wrap it up soon. So hopefully we see something soon.
It's a tough process. I'm not gonna, it's a negotiation, but it needs to be done with gentle care and that it serves the community in the long run. But whatever that model is, I hope that model could be used for other parks. So finally, the Via Verde notice that is in our letter. I'm apologize for my lack of understanding of Via Verde and the relationship. I know the district Swim and Racket Center is in the Via Verde Master Association, and it refers to their annual meeting with different members there, and it represents commercial members, which I assume we are the commercial, not the resident member, and different roles here. And I noticed in the last meeting they had, they decided to have a special assessment if anyone did certain actions, and they did it differently for residents versus commercial property owners. And from that perspective, I think we need to monitor them. And if that's the case, I think someone from the staff at the district or maybe the vice chair should be on their board and monitor what's going on in this whole activity, because that last action was at the prior board said they're going to levy a $15,000 fee if there's a sale. I don't see us selling the property or anything. I don't know who the other commercial properties are, but I don't want to be put at a disadvantage because I do think we have a pretty significant portion of this property. I just don't know what is it. So maybe, Brianne, if you want to look into it, and maybe Jake, take a look at what their agreements are and see if we're appropriately represented.
I have one question about the volunteer, because I know you bring it up every meeting. Is that something that you spoke with Raul about? Because he is the volunteer coordinator for like the pickleball tournament.
Yeah.
And if you want to be the volunteer coordinator for the board.
I'm happy to facilitate whatever it takes to do it. But yes, Raul sent me a direct email asking to participate in the design and to participate in a nonprofit foundation. I think the scope is, similar. I think somehow we just have to kind of weave it into the fabric of over there as we design it.
Shop and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I just, I don't want to, volunteers are great in terms of everything, but I also know that there's employment there as well. So we wouldn't want people to lose jobs over, you know what I mean?
I agree.
As well.
It's a
So
balance.
we'll have to see how we can work it in.
City staff will still have to be there. But,
Yeah.
The volunteers, can really guide us too on it, on what's needed. That's
Yeah.
all.
Okay. And Bob?
I agree with Craig and Steve about the way our contracts are written, and especially with the maintenance facility that we have. And Brian, I know you worked real hard with the city getting this design that would fit. So thank you for your input on that. It was invaluable. As I was referring to earlier, I was looking over the Hornley agreement, and things that we agreed to in the past probably would not pass muster today, and for many different reasons. But I think my greatest concern with this facility, the maintenance facility, is the cost overruns that could put a, I mean, as Craig said, we have limited resources. We don't have a golf course that we could sell to generate funds for our recreational needs. And any dollar that we spend on capital improvements takes away from our recreational development that we might have over at Ocean Breeze. I think, Craig has a good idea about Raul. He's certainly very knowledgeable in the area of pickleball. I don't think I would ask any about volunteers this close to the tournament being over, because I know they worked really hard over there. And but I do think there's an opportunity for them. Public request is where we usually get our input from the volunteers on our design. But I have no problem if Raul wants to have some input with Miller Lake to the degree that it's not interfering with the process. And I wanted to thank, I watched I guess it was the workshop or the city council meeting where the ocean strand issue was brought up. And Aaron, you did a marvelous job. Really, I was impressed with the comments that you made that offset some of the concerns that city council or a couple of council people had. And I thought we were going to end up with a 3-2 vote, but with your silk tongue, we're able to convince it be a 5-0 vote. And I greatly appreciate that. I know you and Craig were, really on point about getting that park opened. And someone asked me about said, well, why are you putting that much money into a park when people can't drive to it? I said, go park your car at the golf course and see how many people walk that sidewalk, run that sidewalk, push baby buggies there. And that park will get plenty of usage from the community. So thank you both for being the driving force behind that. And that's all I have.
So I concur with the three gentlemen to my left about the DeHornley facility. I have to say, we meet every Saturday for 9 weeks at Woodlands Park over at off of St. Andrews for soccer. And the bathroom there is sorely in need of being revamped. When you, excuse the expression, when you flush the handicap toilet, water comes up through the drain right there at your feet. We need to get the city to do something about their existing properties. The hand dryers don't even work, or one of them barely works. So some of these things that I know that they need a facility over there at DeHornley at some point, but they also need to look at the facilities that they have and make some adjustments to them, because it's not healthy the way it looks. And I've talked to staff over there and they're in agreement, but their hands are tied. Another thing that I've run up against at some different places, some are ours, some are city, is the garbage is overflowing. I know we have a lot of people using our facilities, and I'm delighted, but staff needs to be made aware that the garbage is overflowing, and it's just not a good look for the district or for the city. And I think that's just about all I have to say. Oh, Melissa, I have a question. All this work that we've done with CSR over at Boca Chica, Ocean Breeze, who is overseeing going forward all the property? I was over there on the northwest side, and there's some down limbs and dead limbs and things like that. Who will be overseeing that in the future so that we can keep the maintenance from getting out of hand.
It's a split contract depending on where it is out on the golf course, and the current contractor we have, Dale, is the main course person and on the corners, and he was actually supposed to start with trimming limbs and picking up stuff this week. I know he was in the hospital today for a heart procedure, but he was going to get started this week on going in and picking up some of the limbs and stuff because it's in there to do it. To trim the trees is supposed to be done twice a year, and to pick up trash and fallen limbs is supposed to be done every other month. And so that was scheduled to be done for this week. So I'll be following up with him to make sure it gets done. There was also out there today, CSR was out there today cleaning up the two corners, doing some additional work on those on a punch list of items that we gave them as well. When it comes to the front entrances and the roadways along the sides of the roads, that's Yellowstone. That's who we gave that contract to. And they have the same requirements there as the South Florida Bush Hog has, that they will be going by and picking up trash every other month and dead limbs, and they will trim the trees twice a year.
It really looks nice. I was just, everybody that I've talked to has been very impressed with the project, and I want to thank you all for all the efforts that you've put into that. And it just is day and night.
Back to Susie's comment about the garbage. You're saying garbage is overflowing where? In the parking lot. So, there's a garbage issue here. This is a fundamental thing for, government responsibility, police, fire, garbage. Okay. So if, I've heard this issue back at the city council meeting about the park, receptacles, recyclable. Do we as a group agree that we like to have recycle bins at the parks, at least the staff parks?
Well, so the issue is with the recycling apparently is that they get contaminated. And when they get contaminated, they have to put them it's all in one trash bag, right? So they don't hand separate them. So if it's contaminated, it has to go to the trash. For Ocean collects everything, and then they hand pick the recycling out of these bags and they recycle that. So
Okay.
that's because when you take recycling it, you can't, the recycling facilities won't recycle contaminated things. So they put everything in the trash basically because it's contaminated. So the only way to ensure that your things are getting recycled is if they're not contaminated and it's purely recyclable material. So that's what 4Ocean does, is they ensure that whatever they're collecting from the beach is purely recyclable, and they hand pick it from, because people will put half-eaten sandwiches in the recycling bin, and obviously that contaminates the recycling. So I think that's the issue, because I did speak to Monica from City Council, and she's been trying to get recycling for a long time.
But to me, that's kind of an excuse, Aaron. And I say that because that's deep in the weeds. So if that's the philosophy, then we should have no recycling anywhere in the world.
Think what I was talking to Brianne when we were discussing this, when Monica had brought it up at the city council meeting for the Ocean Strand property,
Right.
is, well, maybe we can try it at our parks. Maybe
Right.
we can initiate it at our parks and not rely on the city to do the recycling for us like they do the trash for us, right? So maybe we can figure out a way to get recycling at our parks. And if we do it and we're capable of doing it, maybe then the city will be able to do it at the rest of the parks.
My thought is, look, my first preference is the city is our partner. So, I mean, I think this is coming back to, we have so many parks. We really would like not only our parks to facilitate the city's parks too, to do recycling. If they can't, accommodate it or come back with a plan to accommodate it, I can give you a list of vendors who will go out and pick up garbage. And so that's okay. It's really okay. If the city doesn't want to pick up garbage, there is other vendors who will do that. And that's okay. So we should explore that if that's the case.
Well, I think the garbage is separate from the recycling. I don't know if it's the same vendors and things like that, right? So I suggest you call Monica because she's been trying to do this for years since she's been on city council and has gotten pushback for a
Yeah.
long time. And I agree with you that we are a partner with them. But I think if we want to start it, I think we should try it ourselves, at least maybe at one or two facilities and see how it works. And see how much it costs as well.
That's fine.
But I completely agree with you that we should
So-
absolutely have recycling.
My only pushback to that is, you know, I'm gonna put my Craig's green hat on. It does not make sense to have two garbage collector people at the same site. It's all or nothing. So if you're gonna do recycling, it's the recycling and the garbage because you want one truck, one person responsible for going through and doing it. So, and if the city doesn't want to do that, that's a fundamental thing. I mean, to me, we cannot have the garbage cans have to be picked up and they have to be cleaned up frequently, depending on what the demand is. They're in the parks, they can see it, they're in the best position to do that. As far as recycling go, I'm 100%, even if it is got a speck of contamination on it, because it starts the thought process to at least separate your stuff. And it may all get thrown in the same garbage, but it keeps the mandate out there that you should be conscious of recycling. I think Brianne she's jumping up and down, everything but jumping up.
I just want to jump in briefly. I reached out to, after these comments came up, I reached out to municipal services, sanitation to see what we could do to get it added to our parks. I did not hear back from them, but Michael from Rec Services has been working very diligently with all these different departments where he's working on trying to set up a meeting so we could talk about how it would work in our parks. I can come back at the next meeting with that information and then, because the city does do all of our trash, so they are currently servicing the trash. Let's see what the feedback is, what Four Oceans can do for Ocean Strand. And then we can talk about it as a group if we want to look at other alternatives. If it's not going to be the city, then we can look at that and see what the alternatives are. Or if it's an extra charge or whatever, hopefully I can have some more information by the next meeting. I did try. Michael has been working with them and he's going to try to coordinate a meeting so we can get that resolved.
I'm gonna let him go. You might as well throw on that the whole dogs in the parks. I get it. There's a dog ordinance here that doesn't like dogs in parks. And to be honest with you, I'm over it. If they allow dogs at Town Center Mall, I really don't see the big problem here that people can't control their dogs in a park. And so expanding it is not a bad thing.
I think if you get a council member to support changing that city ordinance and then they get it before the city council, I think that's how we can't change the city ordinances is the thing that goes through city council. So I will leave that up to you.
Call to city council members that if anyone wants to support the dog community, please consider adopting a resolution that is a dog-friendly park in all our parks and modify the ordinance for our current ordinance at the city of Boca Raton. Thank you.
Wasn't there a group that came before us with a very creative idea with, collecting recyclables with,
Yes,
okay,
they're going to do a project down at the beach with the recycling art project too. So
right.
that's happening.
right.
And the beaches have recycling with Four Oceans. We also partnered with FAU years ago just at Sugar Sand and students. There was a group of students that were working and they came and collected the recycling. That was probably 7 or 8 years ago that happened at Sugar Sand and that faded out. But let me talk to the city and see what the options are with them. And then we'll talk about a third party.
I just have one quick question for our attorney. In law school, do they define personal injury the same as bodily injury?
It's a very good question. They do not in law school, but the case law does occasionally make a distinction between the two.
Well, I would like to recommend in the future, because personal injury in the insurance jargon, it means libel, slander, wrongful eviction, wrongful detention. Bodily injury is a lot more distinct when you put that in a document. And I'm not trying to be critical, but every time I see personal injury, and it's not only here that I see this. So I was asking why it must have been a law school thing, probably from the University of Florida, I imagine. But anyway, thank you, Madam Chair, for entertaining my indulgence.
Thank you, Bob. I just wanted to, I would like to say thank you to City Council for approving Ocean Strand, so we can go ahead with that and get it open to the public. And that's it. So future agenda items, again, are the review of the maintenance facility at Spanish River and the YMCA agreement. Anything else?
Could be other things that pop up between now and then.
Okay.
No guarantees.
Okay.
The Via Verde, I will have some feedback on that and we'll put that as an agenda item. Yes.
Move to adjourn.
Joanne?
Yes.
Commissioner Engel? Commissioner Rollins?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsong?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?